Lincoln Riley says USC quarterback Miller Moss has been lights out this spring as the Trojans get ready for Big Ten play. He's done everything but name Moss the starter. There might be something special going on here. Locked On Big Ten starts right now.
You are Locked On Big Ten, your daily podcast on the Big Ten Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Big Ten. I'm Craig Sheeman. Coming up on 40 years as a sports talk show host and play-by-play announcer, I want to thank you for making us your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. And today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Miller Moss came onto the scene during the Holiday Bowl, and it looks like he's going to cruise right into the starting gig at USC. Dylan Raiola, how much money did it take to get him to flip from Georgia to Nebraska? And we have our Tuesday tweets. You want to hang around for those. We got some funny ones for you here. But I want to talk about Miller Moss and the Southern Cal Trojans, one of the newcomers in the Big Ten. Of course, many teams in the Big Ten are figuring out their quarterback situation right now. In fact, we've dedicated a lot of time and space on this podcast to Michigan and Ohio State and their quarterback rooms as of late. But how about the Big Ten newcomer, particularly Southern Cal? It appears that Miller Moss is ready to step right in and lead the Trojans. Now, if you think, for example, Michigan, who we talked about yesterday, that their new quarterback has big shoes to fill following J.J. McCarthy's undefeated national championship season, what about Southern Cal? Their departing quarterback, Caleb Williams, won a Heisman, and he's going to be the number one pick in the NFL draft on Thursday. Trojan fans were pretty excited to see Miller Moss just step up in the Holiday Bowl there and throw a record 6 touchdowns and 372 yards against Louisville after sitting on the bench for most of 2023. Not bad for a first career start, huh? Not bad at all. Very quickly, it was out with the old and in with the new. Let's go. It's Miller time. Lincoln Riley, who has made a reputation of sort as an offensive guru and a great head coach for quarterbacks historically, following this weekend's spring game, says he doesn't need to name a starter right now at Southern Cal. No rush, no biggie. We're fine. But if he had to, he said it would be Miller Moss. And that's after throwing 2 interceptions in the spring game, including a pick 6 for 100 yards. Not a great day overall, was it? So would he be the de facto starter because he's awesome or because the Trojans don't have a better option right now? Maybe a little of both. But the feeling is that the former might be the case here. Miller Moss might be something special. At least that's if you want to read the tea leaves of Lincoln Riley, who again, quarterback guru, he might think that he has something special here. So let's talk about that as we continue here. Moss has been waiting in the wings since 2021. And he's been waiting behind a Heisman guy. So he's really, there was really no chance of him seeing the field, right? This spring, Riley says that Moss he's been awesome. And he's been playing at a really high level. In fact, Riley is so sure about Moss. And again, this is a coach with a resume and a track record to back himself up here when he's talking about quarterbacks, that they only sought younger quarterbacks in the portal. They sought guys that they could develop. They did not want to bring in a guy to compete immediately for Moss. Moss is their guy. They decided that like right away after the Holiday Bowl. That must have been a bit of a relief for Moss because he was uncertain about his future. He and his family were already considering transfer portal options at the end of last year. They were being discussed. And it seems that Moss was ready to move on. Backing up Caleb Williams wasn't the first time he was passed over on the depth chart. Before that, it was Jackson Dart who was in there in 2021. But one thing that Moss has had to develop since then is his leadership for this football team, and that seems to be going pretty well. No complaints there from anybody. Moss had been just quietly operating behind the scenes in the shadows of Caleb Williams, but gaining respect from his teammates along the way. Now that Williams is gone, Moss slowly taking control of the team. He seems ready for that. If Moss should struggle, behind him on the depth chart, though, is a sophomore in Jaden Mayaba, who came from UNLV, and he had an impressive freshman season there where he threw for 3,000 yards of offense and 14 collegiate starts under his belt. That's 13 more than Moss has. And he was the Mountain West Freshman of the Year. He's a dual threat. He can run and he can throw. They also have Jake Jensen. By the way, all three of these quarterbacks threw interceptions on Saturday. Again, Moss had two of them. Moss is four on the day. Talk about that in a second. But Moss threw that tipped pick six and went 100 yards the other way. But on the day, he was a modest 16 for 21 for 133 yards, 1 touchdown, and 2 interceptions. Now, I would not call that lights out, but that's what Lincoln Riley had. Those are his words. It's been lights out all spring. And while not great on Saturday, maybe it's a sign that the Trojans defense has something cooking there. Again, between the three quarterbacks, there were 4 interceptions. Maybe that side of the ball that has been largely forgotten during Lincoln Riley's career, no matter where he's been, defense was an afterthought. It was all about offense. And this has been an area of emphasis for Southern Cal heading into Big Ten play. They have a new first-year defensive coordinator, Danton Lynn. Well, that's another podcast for another day. We're definitely going to explore that as they get ready for Big Ten play. Mayavaz's numbers on the day, by the way, 15 of 17, 172 yards, a touchdown and interception. Not bad. So one thing that will help both quarterbacks this fall is the Trojan offensive line. Riley's pretty excited about it. He said that they're thicker and stronger up front, and they should be able to move people around up front. And they'd better, because that's usually one of the top requisites of playing in the Big Ten. You better be strong up front. In the meantime, this appears to be Miller Moss's job to lose a quarterback. The danger here is that he was a one-hit wonder in the bowl game, but that might not have been the case. Again, I will defer to Lincoln Riley's eye for quarterback play. He obviously saw enough in one bowl game and the practices before that to call off the dogs at the transfer portal. That's right. Again, after an admittedly slow start to spring football, Riley says this kid has been lights out. So again, if Lincoln Riley is going to hit the pause button on bringing in new, older quarterbacks from the transfer portal because he's set on this guy, that ought to tell you something, that maybe he's the real deal. His football IQ in the pocket seems good. His teammates love him. His wide receivers been raving about him. Keep in mind, his wide receivers have been catching balls from him for a couple of years now, behind the scenes at practice every day. So again, whether it be Lincoln Riley's deciding not to bring in experienced competition at quarterback, and remember, one of them, I think, if I remember correctly, was going to be Will Howard, who ended up at Ohio State afterward, because there was all of a sudden that trail went cold at USC because they weren't interested in bringing in guys like that. So whether it was the strength of just one game, or whether it's the 6 touchdown performance that he had in the Holiday Bowl, or years of observing Moss at practice, Riley seems all in on Moss. And again, we have to take Lincoln Riley at his judgment here. He's got the resume with the quarterbacks to give him the benefit of the doubt here. So would love to hear from USC Trojan fans. I know some of you are kind of new to us here on Locked On Big Ten. Some of you, it may still seem strange to talk about USC and Big Ten in the same breath, but we're taking all newcomers, plenty of subscribers. If you like what you see here, be part of it. We're going to talk a lot about USC here on this podcast here on Locked On Big Ten. And we expect big things from the Trojans as well. So be sure to subscribe. It's free. Just click and no other information is required. And they get you in the loop here. And you can follow Locked On Big Ten for free wherever you get your podcast. That way you'll get the latest episode of Locked On Big Ten as soon as it becomes available each and every day. Once again, if you're new to us, usually our audio podcast, if you're on audio only, they come out about 4 a.m. Eastern. If you're on the West Coast, 1 a.m. Eastern, maybe you're still up at night. I don't know. And then the video comes out on YouTube at 6 a.m. Eastern. That'd be 3 a.m. out on the West Coast. So it's there ready for you first thing before you get ready for that big Los Angeles commute or wherever you're listening or watching. We'll be ready to go for you each and every day. But tell your friends about us too, that we're out here as well. But be sure and get yourself subscribed and follow us. Want to talk a little bit about Dylan Raiola. And did he demand a lot of nil money to come to Nebraska? I mean, it was a pretty Pretty big surprise to a lot of people that he flipped from Georgia to Nebraska, even though he had some family ties. We'll talk about that a little bit as he's trying to figure out things there at Nebraska. And Iowa women's basketball may have their replacement for Caitlin Clark. And I know you may shrug and say, replacement for Caitlin Clark. Well, maybe. Lisa Bluter's been hitting the transfer portal too. All that is coming up. So stay with us in just 1 minute right here on Locked On Big Ten. You know, if you want to go to some of these games, baseball games coming up, or maybe a playoff game for the NBA or NHL, you need to get the Game Time app. They'll set you up. And if you're the person in your group that's in charge, getting the tickets, take all the stress away with the Game Time app. It's easy. It is now an authorized ticket marketplace for Major League Baseball now, which makes getting tickets even faster and easier if you want to go to that. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to first pitch. How about that? That hardly ever happens anywhere else, right? So you get last minute deals, save up to 60% off buying last minute for sports, concerts, comedy, theater. It's not just sports, it's everything. Got the flash deals. You can save even more with the exclusive in-app deals and select seats ahead of the game or the event. Couple quick taps on the phone, boom, tickets right there. Another tap, get a picture of the view from the seat you're buying. It's all right there. Take all the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCollege. That's LOCKEDONCOLLEGE. Locked On College for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. And you want some fun at the games, some more fun at the games? FanDuel. FanDuel is where you need to be at. Whether it's these playoff games for the NBA, the NHL, we just talked about baseball. That's all rolling now. FanDuel is your place to bet on every game. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. It's $150, win or lose. Bet on everything from slap shots to home runs to slam dunks. It's all on an app that's safe, secure, easy to use. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make your first bet an automatic win. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Give you some tips for tonight. I like the Lightning to even up their series against the Panthers. It's going to be a great series. That's turned into just a great rivalry over the years in the state of Florida. And in the NBA, the Dallas Mavericks -2.5 at the Clippers. I would take that. Take Dallas to even up that series as well against the Clippers. Again, FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. All right. Thank you guys for making Locked On Big Ten your first listen every day, especially you everydayers out there. Meanwhile, be sure to subscribe and follow and share and like Locked On Big Ten, your team every day. Hey, and don't forget our website, talkbig10, number10.com. We've got a bunch of merch there and information, and all of our podcasts are all there, one right after the other, chronologically and grouped by teams and schools. Maybe your favorite school that we talked about that day. You can find it really easy. Maybe you're a Nebraska fan, for example. Let's talk about Nebraska for a minute. 5-star quarterback recruit Dylan Raiola raised a lot of eyebrows when he flipped from Georgia to Nebraska back in December. And he wanted to play for Matt Rule. He wanted to come back and play at Nebraska. He had some family ties there. Do you ever wonder how much, if any, how much money it might take to land a flip like that? Well, we don't know for sure, but we have an educated guess. Remember, Raiola said in a recent interview that the football part is first and foremost on any of his decision making, and he just lets his parents handle all the business stuff, the nil and all of that stuff. They didn't even worry about it. But Matt Rule may have given us a hint as to how expensive a new quarterback could be. Just before Raiola flipped, Rule told the media and Husker fans that they might have to stand pat with their quarterbacks on the roster as is. He said, look, I'll just let you know. If we do anything, that's your starting point's $1 million. All right. You want to bring in a quarterback on the portal, starting point's $1 million, maybe $1.5 million. Now, At the time, he was talking about a transfer portal with an experienced quarterback from another school coming in. And, we're talking about a high school senior in Raiola who be coming in as a recruit. So figure a little less for a freshman, but nevertheless, probably an expensive proposition and transaction for the Nebraska Cornhuskers there. But they got their guy. I'm excited to see how he does. I'm excited to see what the game plan is with Raiola and Matt Rule and how quickly they bring him along. You can throw a true freshman into the Wolves and let him go, or ease him in a little bit. I think it's going to be one of the most interesting stories in the Big Ten this year. Meanwhile, elsewhere, the Ohio State Buckeyes are so loaded at running back. Dalen Hayden hit the portal after some interest from Georgia Tech. He has announced he's going to play for Coach Prime, Deion Sanders, and Colorado. We wish him well. Except I think they play Nebraska the first week of the season, so we don't wish them well there, right? In basketball, the Buckeyes, Roddy Gale Jr., played 2 seasons for the Buckeyes. Guess what? He's in the portal, as you know, going to Michigan. Ohio State to Michigan. Going to join Dusty May there, who's, by the way, Dusty May's been killing it. He's been doing a great job bringing in people at Michigan and changing things up as he takes over for Juwan Howard. Gale scored 13.5 points and almost 5 rebounds per game and 3 assists, so a good get at Michigan, and a lot of Buckeye fans are unhappy. In fact, I think we have one of the unhappy Buckeyes on Twitter on Tuesday tweets coming up in just a minute. Purdue forward Mason Gillis, fresh off an NCAA championship game appearance. He is hitting the portal. He's going to Duke. He played 39 games this season for Purdue, averaged 6.5 points per game, 4 rebounds, and 2 assists. Look, he's a good defender. He's a good glue guy. He's a good shooter. He's one of those guys. He comes off the 6th man, comes off the bench, and gives you whatever you need. That you need something physical inside, he'll deliver it. You need him to stop somebody, he'll do it. You need him to shoot a 3, he'll do it. He's a good player. And, strange thing going on at Duke. I think Duke has lost like 7 players to the portal. People usually don't transfer out of Duke. They love to go there and play. But they have such an incredible freshman class coming in with the number 1 overall player in Cooper Flagg that I think some guys saw some writing on the wall that they weren't going to be playing, so they all hit it and left. But Gillis, he'll fit in well there at Duke for sure. And possibly, I almost hesitate on how to word this, but because it's impossible to replace Caitlin Clark at Iowa. As you know, she was just the number 1 pick in the WNBA draft by the Indiana Fever. By the way, side note here. In addition to signing her 8-figure deal with Nike, I heard today that the Indiana Fever and Caitlin Clark, they have sold more number 22 Caitlin Clark Indiana Fever jerseys than the entire Dallas Cowboys football team all of last year. Think about that. The Cowboys, America's team, all their star players, all the jerseys that were sold all year last year. Caitlin Clark, in less than 2 weeks, has sold more Caitlin Clark Indiana Fever jerseys than the entire Dallas Cowboys all year. Mind-blowing. She's taken over the league. Anyway, let that sink in for a minute. But look, Lisa Bluter has to replace over 30 points a game on her team over there. She came close. She came close. She landed Villanova transfer Lucy Olson. Lucy Olson was the 3rd leading scorer in all of college basketball last year for women. Caitlin Clark was number 1. Juju Watkins, number 2. Lucy Olson, number 3. Lucy Olson now going to Iowa. That's a good get by Lisa Bluter. That's a really good get. So anyway, the Hawkeyes fans are pretty excited about the pick, and they have high expectations over there for sure. Hey, we got a lot of anticipation coming up here. We got an NFL draft, and Locked On has an NFL mock draft available for you anytime. It's already ready to go. It is an ultimate 6-episode series on Locked On, the NFL draft. You can hear the local Locked On experts who they're picking for every NFL franchise with live reactions from local college football experts, and even the fantasy football angle is there. The Locked On NFL Mock Draft available now on Locked On NFL Draft on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. All right, I already told you one of the tweets that's coming up. We always like to do Tuesday tweets. Little Michigan heavy for some reason this week. So if you hate Michigan, hang with me. I'll get to the others. Okay. I promise. It's all coming up. Locked On Big Ten. Monopoly Go. This is fun. This is the new game. You don't play Monopoly as a kid. Now we got Monopoly Go. I'm going to tell you all about it. It's been downloaded 150 million times already. It's a new twist on Monopoly. We play on not one, but hundreds of different Monopoly boards, crazy locations. You build up amazing cities, bring in big money. You can steal money from your friends if they're your friends. It's fantastic. So whether you're getting ready to just play one friend in the game, build up a city, the hotels, the teams, all that, or you can do a bank heist, if you will, of your best friend, take all their money. I told you before, it's like an Ocean's 11 movie, except you're playing a game. Monopoly Go. You got to check this out. You can play on countless dynamic Monopoly boards and charge your friends and players, other players rent, and have all these iconic properties that are there. So you got to check this out. It is a lot of fun. It is Monopoly Go. So check that out with all of your friends, and you can have a lot of fun with that. And you can get it by downloading Monopoly Go, and it's now free on the App Store or Google Play. Monopoly Go. All right, it's time for Tuesday tweets. Let's do this. Let's have some fun. If you follow us on Twitter, it is, of course, at Talk Big Ten, or X, whatever you want to call it these days. Feel free to follow us there. We like to follow you guys back. And I always kind of go through there and comb through there and retweet stuff. And we put together a few of the best of the rest on Tuesday tweets right here on Locked On Big Ten. So let's put it up on the screen, full screen. If you're on audio only, I will try to describe these in detail as best I can. This is from at Brandon Koritz. It is a picture of J.J. McCarthy. I believe this is at the spring game. He's got 8 rings on his fingers, all huge, beautiful, and obnoxious rings. J.J. McCarthy, greatest quarterback in the 144-year history of Michigan football. 27-1 is the record as a starter, national champion, 3-time Big Ten champion, 3-time college football appearances, Rose Bowl champion and MVP, 2-time All Big Ten, 3-0 versus Ohio State. I think you get rings for all of that, except for the 3-0 versus Ohio State and the 2-time All Big Ten. I think everything else you get a ring. There's 3 rings for the Big Ten championships. It's the national championship. That's 4. You get them for the bowl games. He's loaded. Nice rings. Here's another close-up of a picture of that. This is from at fan Josh. Thank you. It says probably more rings than your favorite QB. Probably. And by the way, have you noticed this? J.J. McCarthy, people love talking about his draft status because he didn't throw that much this year. And then juxtaposed with Jim Harbaugh, calling him a generational quarterback. And, early on, some people had him a first-round pick. Some people said he wasn't going to be in the first round, maybe the second round. Then, is he a mid-15, middle-of-the-round guy, top 10 guy, top 5 guy, top 3 guy, not up to top 2, according to Vegas? Yeah. At Pro Football Fantasy Betting, right now, J.J. McCarthy to go number 2 overall in the draft. That'd be to Washington, unless there's a trade. A day ago was plus 2,000. Now he's plus 1,100. What is going on here? He is moving up the draft board. And here's a picture of Jim Harbaugh getting the tattoo, the Michigan 15-0 tattoo. This is from at Barstool Sports. He said in January, if we go 15-0, I'm getting a tattoo. He got the tattoo. And one more for Michigan. This is from at Barstool, Michigan. Dusty May going to the frat houses to rally the troops. A little pep rally in there. Oh, here's one more. Somebody reminding me that the Rose Bowl was only 100 days ago. Go blue. Here's a little transfer hybrid story between Ohio State and Michigan from at the Wolverine on 3. Breaking news, Ohio State transfer Roddy Gale Jr. committing to Michigan. We told you about that just a few minutes ago. Speaking of Ohio State, this is from at the Scarlet and Gray podcast. It says, it doesn't bother me when players enter the transfer portal. I understand that is the current era of college sports. But what bothers me is when a Buckeye transfers to TTUN, that's to the team up north, because it proves the rivalry meant nothing to you and you were never a true Buckeye. Harsh words, but a lot of people feel that way. Here's some good stuff from Ohio State at Barstool Ohio State. It's a picture of Marvin Harrison Jr., and it is draft week. Ready to go. What do we think? Top 4? I think we're going to go quarterback, and then wide receiver, and he's going to be it. That's what I think. Again, trades could change everything. Speaking of Ohio State, you recognize this picture? This is Syracuse. Yes, this is from at Junior's Rankings. This is Kyle McCord. Happy for Kyle McCord. Looks like he's really improved in the offseason. This is a picture of him at Syracuse after he was exiled from Ohio State because he wasn't good enough and didn't fit their plans. And now he's, we'll see how he does at Syracuse. But apparently had a really, really good spring game. And then we talked about the Ohio State current quarterback situation. Boy, if you take a really improved Kyle McCord, how does he look with that loaded Ohio State team? I hope for the Buckeyes' sake that they don't rue the day they ran him out of town too early. Here's at Daily Michigan State. Here's a question for you. Would you rather see Michigan State win a national championship in football or basketball next year? I went on to say, I've always been a basketball guy, but something about winning it in football directly after Michigan would be hilarious. Maybe. Here's from at Go Green 517. This is their ranking. My Big Ten hate rankings for football. Michigan 1, Michigan 2, Michigan 3, all the way through 17. All Michigan. This is who they hate the most. This is their rankings. You know, we do have power rankings coming up tomorrow. I don't think I'll use this. Here is more at Michigan on 3 Sports. Michigan State wide receiver Antonio Gates Jr. entering the transfer portal. Of course, the son of Antonio Gates, great receiver. Never really clicked or caught on there at Michigan State. Now he's moving on. Here's another one from Michigan State at Sheldon J. Krause. Cross the Costco Izzo experience off my bucket list today. This person ran into Tom Izzo at Costco. Hey, he's got a save too. Here is from at Tomato Soup, or I'm sorry, at Dan Campbell's Tomato Soup. Breaking. It's a picture of a skeleton falling over. Footage of Tom Izzo emerges while Dusty May continues to absolutely cook in the transfer portal. So a lot of stuff going on in Michigan in the portal. Not so much with Michigan State these days. And then here is from at Jeff Rabjohns. He covers the Hoosiers. It's a picture of 3 new Hoosiers in the transfer portal. And this is Indiana's transfer portal recruiting class, currently ranked number 1 in the country. The Hoosiers have landed number 1, Omar Ballo, number 10, Kenan Carlisle, and number 18, Miles Rice. Hashtag IU basketball. Mike Woodson, good job. So that's a look at Tuesday tweets. I told you it was going to be a little Michigan heavy. Look, if you're from another school and you got some good stuff, send it to me. I'll put it out there. I'm always looking for good stuff. I have a sense of humor. I like that kind of stuff. All right. Meanwhile, there are many ways for you to interact with me. Don't forget at Twitter or X at Talk Big Ten number 10, our website, talkbig10number10.com, and on YouTube. Be sure to subscribe and follow this podcast right now on your favorite podcast app, and you'll get the latest episode of Locked On Big Ten as soon as it becomes available each and every day. Also, we invite you to watch another episode of Locked On Big Ten and share it with your friends. You know some Big Ten people? They would probably love it here. We would love to have them. And then when you're done with us, don't forget our friends from Locked On. They got Locked On Sports Today, 24/7, streaming for you right there. That'll do it. We'll have all the latest portal news, some more spring football analysis from your favorite team. We'll continue to do that and keep an eye on it. Thank you for visiting us today. Can't wait till we talk again next time. I'm Craig Sheeman for Locked On Big Ten.